Hello there, and welcome to the Australian CFO Show. I'm thrilled to have Sammy Michaels here to join me today. So, thank you very much for joining me, Sammy.
No, thank you very much for having me.
I would also like to thank our sponsor, Wheel, Australia's leading spend management system. So, Sammy, I'd love to hear if you could, provide a quick overview of your career to date.
Sure. I started in the UK with PwC, where I trained as a chartered accountant. Had a lot of fun there and got a few really cool opportunities. And one of those was working in Mongolia. So I went off with PwC to Mongolia as part of establishing PwC Mongolia office and did that for several months, which was great fun, real experience. It got between, I think it's 45 degrees in the summer and minus 45 degrees in the winter. So it was it was a real adventure to go to. At a similar time, I actually met my wife and we decided she was Aussie. So we decided to give Australia a go. So I moved across to Australia with PwC and worked in the oil and gas space, which was great fun. I was really fortunate enough to be working with a partner who became the CFO of a marketing organization for Anglo-American and mining organization, and he offered me the opportunity to help go set up the accounting function in Singapore, as they were effectively consolidating all their global activity in Singapore. So I went over there and we helped build what I call kind of a hyper growth accounting function. We were going from not really having any activity to consolidating under about $20-30 billion of revenue through one organization. It was real fun. Real opportunity. I got to work with some amazing people. Towards the end of that, we had a child and we thought, you know what, we want to go to Australia and kind of set up shop in Australia, and that's where we want to raise a family. So I started looking for new opportunities back in Oz. And really fortunately, I came across a company called Qualtrics, software as a service company in employee and customer experience or experience management. And I always knew in my heart of hearts that I really liked tech and I liked software. I didn't really know why. And suddenly this opportunity came about. The role was kind of head of finance, but also kind of first finance person on the ground for the APAC region. And I was really fortunate with the opportunity and jumped at it. Did that for about 5 years. And then after that, I got an amazing opportunity with Octopus Deploy. And I started there in March this year, which is, again, really lucky. Worked with some awesome people leading up the finance for the group.
Yeah, you've had such on the one hand, varied experience of, PwC, mining companies, now quite a large tech firm. And now I understand Octopus Deploy is a little smaller than what Qualtrics currently is, but you seem to really have that, growing a finance function and establishing the frameworks and foundations. So hats off to you. That's pretty impressive. And what is it? Can you talk a little bit about Octopus Deploy and what you're doing over there?
Sure. So Octopus Deploy specializes in deployment automation. So across the DevOps space, there are various activities that are owned by different companies. So if you think of Atlassian would famously own the plan or bug fixing, our aspiration is to own deployment automation space of the journey. We're currently at around 200 people, and we're growing at a great pace, and fortunate to be part of a profitable SaaS company as well, which I know is a challenge these days. And my role is VP of Finance, and it's effectively the end-to-end finance spectrum. But I suppose given companies of these sizes, also wherever I can help out. We're based out of Brisbane, but it's a fully remote company. So that's where it was founded, where our founder was based. And we now have operations or legal operations in the US, UK, and New Zealand, with a few other people kind of spread around the world.
What do you think the hardest part of setting up the finance function is?
It's around prioritization for me. There are so many great opportunities, and people come forward with ideas and suggestions, and they're all generally fantastic. And they're all really good ideas about where we should go, where we should be running at. And it's working out where we can go to be successful, the fastest or most effectively, or if we're going to be placing kind of longer term bets, where we go and place those chips. Yeah, it's making those decisions, and I really enjoy them. And yeah.
And can you talk me through a little about the differences from what it looks like to lead a finance team in a mining company as opposed to working in tech?
So when I was Anglo-American, we were a finance team that was a company of about 160,000 people. When I joined Qualtrics, the APAC region where I led finance, I think it was 80 people, and we grew in APAC to about 600 by the time I left. And Octopus Deploy were around 200 now. And while I was at Anglo American for 3 years, it was very structured, and we'd reached a little bit of a peak in some regards to the size and the structure of the organization. It was making sure that we could maintain that kind of corporate rigidity, and making sure we're following some really complicated and important governance and structure. Within the tech, it's the high growth challenge. My team went from myself on my own to the end. It was between 15 and 20 people, and I had to run facilities, and then I'd run different parts of the organization and move around and take different elements of ownership. The challenge was the adaptability, being able to move quickly, kind of actually, this is a new problem, this is a new challenge, how are we going to face it? Whereas around working in the mining organization, it was really maintaining some really important, complex governance and structure to make sure we're adhering to a large framework, especially as it was a public listed company as well.
And what was your team size at Qualtrics?
So by the end, it ended up being about, I think it was somewhere short of 20, broken into four functions. There was an accounting function, FP&A function, a function that was called commercial finance. There was a team that went under the name renewals, more around the transactional activity, invoicing, cash collection. And at some point there was managing a facilities team as well for the various offices that we had across the APAC region.
Wow. And I guess I could probably preempt maybe a little bit of the answer, but through that time at Qualtrics, when you went from probably being maybe a handful through to a size of 20, can you talk through how your role changed in leading that finance team?
It started much more in the detail, but also much more kind of honestly running around at the beginning, trying to work out how I can be most valuable to the organization. As you want to go and help in so many different places, and obviously I was like a kid, really excited about, can I help here, can I help there? But realizing actually, in some ways my value is being able to give that finance input, and sitting on the executive leadership, this is how finance can help, and this is where we should be leaning in, and kind of really should try and be laser focused. And as the role grew, kind of you're very much in the detail, but kind of trying to help in lots of places, to actually being able to fortunately step back, had some great people leading various teams, and be able to focus a little bit more on strategy, where we're going to, what the bigger picture was. But also learning for me was to actually try, even though the role had somehow grown, trying to hone in my focus. This is the problem we've got to solve at the moment. This is the challenge we're facing, and try as much as possible to kind of hone it or get rid of the maybe distractions in the background.
And when you say, the problems or the challenges that you were facing, or, honing in on, what's the strategy you're working on, are you talking specifically to the finance function?
So it could be, for example, we wanted as an organization to expand into a new region or a new country, to expand into a market in Asia. At the same time, we might have different problems around, we kind of make sure we get the commissions right, make sure that these pieces are working effectively. I knew that finance would be most effective focusing in on how can we set up a new country in a new region, bring our expertise in here, and actually don't focus on these other areas, because I know other teams have got them. They're working on them. They're going to absolutely nail them. I fully trust my colleagues. It's the benefit of working with some really great people and kind of keeping us as a team really focused on what are the challenges, because there's always so many things that we could be working on.
Yeah, it's always tough to, I guess like what we were chatting about before, particularly in a fast-moving business, you've got so many things, so many good things and like exciting problems to solve. But as you said, sometimes you just need it to settle on the biggest problem will emerge. What do you think, your biggest challenge has been throughout your career?
I think I made lots of mistakes through my career. I haven't got enough lifetimes to go through all of them. One of the ones that I made is I got this learning. It's really important to have an opinion and kind of if you want to be part of the conversation, really have an opinion and share it. And I learned this phrase. I actually learned it this week. Is to strong opinion but loosely held. And the error that I made actually was I came in with strong opinions, but they weren't loosely held. And I held on to them too strongly. And I was like, actually, no, my opinion's right. When, you know what, it's a strong opinion, but it wasn't listening enough to all the other opinions in the room. It's something for me, as I'm getting more, is I actually now I'm developing more and more stronger opinions. But the important thing is to make sure they are loosely held, and that I very quickly can go and actually appreciate, these are different opinions and they're right and they're alternative views. Getting better at that and focusing on that, and it's encapsulating that view of strong opinions loosely held, I find to be quite powerful.
It's funny you say that. I was talking to my CFO yesterday, and he was talking about, additional go-to-market strategy that, we could be trying. And I was like, why would we go after that? And I was kind of got frustrated because I was like, but we've still got to do all of this work. And he's like, it's okay. You can run the things in parallel. I think we just had a very different view on it. And I just had to like sit and wait for a minute to be like, okay, yeah, I can see why he wants to try it that way. And he's like, we can get to phase 2 and we can do it your way then, but I need to do it this way first. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah. So I was like, I kind of then came around, but you have to really actively try to listen to someone else's, I guess, view or point of view. And it doesn't necessarily negate yours. It just provides a different, I guess, spin on it. And particularly, I think when you are growing a business, you are all coming at it from a very different perspective, like marketing or sales wants this, product wants this, finance thinks this. They're not necessarily wrong. They're just really informed by different levels of knowledge and understanding. So at Octopus, what's your primary focus now?
Right now, it's a combination of two things which are almost slightly counterintuitive. One is stability, really making sure that we've got a bedrock for growth, kind of getting the processes, systems in place, the team structure, so that we're all really confident that we know not only these are the systems of today, but in 5 years' time, these are still really solid. And that's when we're thinking, these are the next tools for us to go to the next generation of growth. And as well as stability, kind of within the finance team, within the wider organization, how can we grow in a really kind of calm, structured, profitable manner? It's a real pleasure working for a profitable software company, because you get rid of the outward pressures of being from needing external finance. And it's going to be really important to continue to grow in that way, but also to grow fast. So getting the balance of those elements.
And with the setting up the stability and the tools, what are you looking at and what are you using at the moment?
So we're using NetSuite as our ERP, and we're using Adaptive for our forecasting. the piece that I think will really add some more value is when we get some accounts payable automation and tools to be able to accelerate the expenses process. There's a lot of opportunity for automation out there. It'll never be completely automated, but from the procure to pay process, the request to procure as well, there's a lot of opportunity. Employee expenses, I think we can certainly automate that a little bit more. And also having a policy in place that will really enable people to both be really fast and at the same time feel really confident they understand what they can and cannot do, and kind of get rid of any of the inefficiencies or squeaky wheels in the policy that we create.
I was talking to they were like, forgotten the word. What is it when managed service provider? That's it. So they had, I think, some engineers going out and about, and they, rather than like buy things that they needed to like fix their clients like setup. I obviously don't have the technical language here to explain it properly, but rather than like going out on the day, diagnosing the problem, buying what they needed, fixing it on the day, they're like, nah, I don't want to have to put this on my own card and wait for reimbursements. I'd prefer to come back to the office. I'm going to get given my money and then I'll go out the next day. But I think like setting up a framework where you do allow people to move quickly, but they're comfortable with like, you know, what that expense process is, I think is so important. So it's interesting that you do flag that. And I guess you're very youthful. What are your career goals?
Obviously, the camera's taken off 10 years. I think that's sort of. I've got lots of different goals, and they change quite regularly. I've really enjoyed in my career when I've worked and had individuals in my team that turned around and enjoyed themselves. So I'd love to work with more individuals where hopefully as a consequence of working with me, with my organizations, they turn around and say, you know what, I've really enjoyed this. It's been great fun for whatever reason, for the learning, for the experience, just for the good, the good company of other colleagues around them. That's been a real pleasure. I suppose there's a bit of ego to it, but I want to be able to look back on my life and feel that because I was in a company, it was more successful. And I want to be able to associate with myself. There's definitely a lot of ego there, so I need to keep that one under wraps. And there's probably a few more, tactical things I'd like to be involved in. Company, some bigger, I don't know, M&A activity, public debt raising, fundraising, just so I can learn a little bit more about it. But I think all those pieces they come second to the first two I mentioned.
Great. Yeah. Well, I look forward to following on the journey of Sammy. No doubt we'll see a lot more. So I wish you all the best, and I'd like to thank you again for spending your time and chatting with us. I actually did see a nomination for you for CFO of the Year. So anyone else who's tuning in, the CFO awards are open. So there's a team of the year, CFO for a non-for-profit, CFO for a startup, rising star. So nominate your team, colleague, anyone you want. Well, not anyone because they're going to be in finance, but that's enough. All right, Sammy, again, have a great day, and I will speak to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.